What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the 10-7 MMA. I'm DS, and he is Dino Bam Bam.
I am Dino Bam Bam.
Today, we wanted to break down just a little bit about the rise and the positioning of Sean O'Malley.
Sugar Shane.
Sugar Shane. We're obviously the reason that we're doing this huge fight this coming weekend, him versus Aljamain Sterling. We're dropping a video on Aljamain Sterling, which you can also find on our channel as well. But we wanted to do one on Sean O'Malley as well, because two very different fighters. Aljo, mostly disliked at this point, unfortunately, to us at least, and you can see why in the video.
Not to me.
I mean, I like him too, man. Sugar Sean, almost across the board, universally liked, and even if you don't like him, you're talking about him.
Facts.
So, just from the get-go, he was a guy who you knew had something special, right?
Yeah.
Because he came in on the Contender Series.
Yep.
He was super young, 22 years old, I believe, at the time. And off the bat, he was like getting shout-outs from Snoop Dogg. And
well, that was the Snoop Dogg like commenting the O'Malley.
That's right.
And he put him up on Instagram, and Sean O'Malley got like 20,000 followers from Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
Like putting him on.
Yep.
Of course, viral knockout of Kashakian, I think it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So immediately you knew he had some power. What do even casuals like? You like knockouts, right?
Yes.
You see the skinny white kid, doesn't look like much. Over time, obviously, he's added the tattoos. He's got the colorful hair, and so he's got a look for sure. For example, we used to talk about this, like Riff Raff.
Yeah.
Remember Riff Raff?
Shout out Riff Raff.
Shout out Riff Raff. So Jody High Roller. So
Sean O'Malley's the Jody High Roller of
the
UFC.
He is, and I'm just saying, like, I'm sure to some extent Riff Raff, at least in the beginning, was playing a character.
Yeah.
But that's genius marketing.
Yeah.
It's a genius way to market yourself. So, and then as he kept going through, right? So, it was the Contender Series, and then just kept winning, right? So then he subbed Takanori Gomi in 2019, in a grappling match, which to his credit, he's been doing these grappling matches. Mm-hmm. And it's just a bunch of nice knockouts. Then obviously had the Chito Vera loss. I think that's one of the only stains on his resume as somebody who's super liked.
Yeah, I mean, well, technically, and it is the only stain on his record.
Right.
But, yeah, I get what you're saying. You're saying people gave him kind of shit for it because he refused to accept the loss.
Right, so that was
undefeated
exactly
thing.
that.
Yeah.
So it's not just that he lost. People lose fights. This is a tough business, right? Yeah. This is a tough sport. But the fact that he couldn't admit it, even for me at first, I was like, come on, man.
Stop being corny.
Stop. Yeah. That's corny, dude. You lost, But then even that over time became like an inside joke,
the undefeated,
right?
Unranked. Remember, he would have the jerseys and shit. Yeah.
So, but see, that's genius, man. That is genius marketing. Say what you will about Sean O'Malley. Whether you like him or you dislike him, you're going to talk about him. So he's got the look, he's got the power, he's got a fan-friendly style.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's already top 15. I just checked. I want to say top 7 or 8 maybe amongst active fighters.
Yeah.
He's got like 3 million Instagram followers. So that's already a shit ton. And now with a huge, this could potentially be massive. What do you think? If he somehow, I know you may not think he'll beat Aljo, mm-hmm. and you can watch our full breakdown to find out what we think about the entire fight card. If he does beat Aljo, what happens?
Sean O'Malley's already one of the biggest stars in the UFC. You mentioned the followers thing. I think even more so than the followers. He's like, the casuals really like Sean O'Malley.
I would say
as well.
Agree or disagree?
Yeah.
Aljo, potential bantamweight GOAT.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think he's the GOAT, you can't say he's anywhere lower than third.
Sure.
At worst.
Of course.
So, you have somebody like that who's the champion, mm-hmm. who has been the champion for a long time now. And you have Sean O'Malley, who's
28 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Agree or disagree? He is a bigger draw than Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah, I think he's probably a bigger draw.
If you're looking at pay-per-view numbers, for example, you put Sean O'Malley, you put Aljamain Sterling on the same card. I feel like it's going to have more buys with Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, see, I don't know that. I wish that we had actual figures to back that. Yeah. But it's like Sean O'Malley's always been put on gigantic cards. Right. So we can't really get like the
Not that Aljo hasn't.
Right. But I'm just saying we can't really get like the breakdown of what Sean O'Malley's doing.
And we never will because
UFC 264, right? He's on a Conor McGregor card.
Right.
Then he's on a Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira card, and like he's on the other Charles Oliveira.
There's
Poirier
no question
card.
that the UFC wants Sean O'Malley.
Right. So they put him on the biggest cards to get the most attention. Now, do I think Sean O'Malley's a draw? I do think Sean O'Malley's a very big draw.
How can he not be?
I think the casuals, he really resonates with the casuals because he sticks out. It's the guy with the colorful hair that's knocking people out.
That's outspoken, cracks jokes.
Exactly. And I think the diehard MMA fans, I think there is a respect for Sean O'Malley. He is a very good fighter. He's a supremely good striker. He's got stupid power. He's fast. All the shit you mentioned earlier. It's just like, for the diehard fans, I think the little bit of reserve is like, he's been pushed a little quickly. Babied, actually. Not quickly. He's been babied.
He has been babied.
Yeah.
He has been babied, and he's gotten away with things, right? So, obviously, the Chito Vera loss, people barely even, like, count it anymore or, like, mention it.
And the Pedro Munoz, the Ipo, he was kind of losing that fight.
That was a close fight, you know. So, you're right. Not only has he been babied, but in the times where he has ended up on the wrong side of it, whether he's won or lost, if he still somehow comes out okay. So
like the Peter Yan fight.
Right.
We don't need to get into anything, but it was a very close fight.
Super close fight.
Of course it goes O'Malley's way is the thought process.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is good for the sport. It's good for the sport because Sean O'Malley is so much bigger and such a bigger draw. He's going to hit 6 million followers. He's going to double his followers if he ends up winning this fight.
So you were asking me, let's say Sean O'Malley wins this fight against Aljo. We get Anu. He's the bantamweight champion of the world. What does that do for Sean O'Malley? Does he blow up and become a superstar? Does he become a star the level of Ronda Rousey or Conor McGregor? I don't think he hits Conor levels.
I don't think we'll ever see Conor levels again.
Yeah.
Personally, I think Conor was a perfect storm at the perfect time, and he's the perfect guy and all that, you know. But I think absolutely like the next tier down. Who
below Ronda? Because Ronda was like...
Ronda was massive because she literally brought a whole other gender into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to compare him to Ronda.
Yeah.
But let's take somebody like right now, who's like, if you're looking at the optics and the numbers, it's probably Israel Adesanya.
Is probably the biggest star in the UFC. I would say Adesanya, maybe Charles Oliveira.
John Jones, of
course.
Yeah.
But yeah, fair, Adesanya. You think he's bigger than Israel Adesanya?
I think he can be that. He can at least be that.
Do you think he becomes
And I think
mainstream?
his style is more watchable to the casual fan and easier for casual fans to get behind. Because you could love Israel Adesanya. He talks all this shit. He's such a good striker. And then he comes on and does a point fighting fest, you know, boring as hell for 5 rounds. So, whereas Sean O'Malley, you don't see much of that. So, I think you add that in too. I think he could be a bigger star than Israel Adesanya. Now,
does he cross into the mainstream?
In due time.
Yeah.
If anybody can cross into mainstream, he is, since Conor, I think the guy that could cross into mainstream better than anybody.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I really do agree with that. I think if Sean O'Malley can become a champion and defend his belt maybe once or twice, he is a guy that we can start seeing on TV shows and movies and shit like that.
He's marketable as hell, man.
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about purely about the sport itself and not outside of it, he does need to not only, first of all, beating Aljamain is a huge get, and it would be unbelievable. But then after that, if he defends it a couple times, I absolutely think he can be bigger than Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, though, it's going to be a lot tougher. If he loses, you know, right after that, even if he beats Aljo, it's going to be a tough sell.
And there are some tough matchups looking forward if Sean O'Malley does become champion. The rematch versus Chito, his only loss. That's a scary fight for Sean O'Malley.
Definitely.
Then there's a couple grapplers. Like we know Umar Nurmagomedov's coming up. Very good striker. We know fight. He has the grappling advantage. So there's some tough fights coming up for O'Malley if he were to become champion. So it would be difficult for him to get that championship reign that would justify him becoming like a mainstream star. But I guess it doesn't justify it because the mainstream stars of the UFC have been Conor McGregor, who never defended his belt. Ronda Rousey is an outlier, right?
Right.
And then you have guys like Brock Lesnar, who came from the world of WWE. And I'm trying to think Chuck Liddell. I guess he defended his belt a couple times. It's Chuck Liddell.
Yeah.
But, so you think he could be...
Brock defended his belt, what, twice?
Yeah,
like,
probably.
So it's not like he sat there defending the shit out of his belt. He was still the biggest draw.
Yeah.
So...
Do you think Sean O'Malley can become the biggest draw in the UFC?
No question.
No question.
No question. Absolutely can become the biggest draw in the UFC. Don't you think?
I mean, it's possible, man. I just don't know that...
Listen, in a UFC where Conor McGregor is not fighting.
Right, well, nobody's surpassing Conor, as you mentioned earlier. Maybe. I mean, yeah, it's tough for me to say right now, because we just haven't seen him main eventing yet, right?
Right.
And we don't know what that looks like. So, obviously, the first things first, you got to go out and get this win. But after that, I guess the sky is the limit for Sean O'Malley. We don't really know yet, but he is marketable.
Who else is more marketable? I mean, if he wins this fight, the sky is the ceiling.
The ceiling is the roof.
Right.
Yeah, shit like that.
Yeah.
Shout out Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
The GOAT. But yeah, look, Sean O'Malley is a star already. I think, of course, winning the title makes him that much bigger. Some mainstream opportunities.
It would just be for the UFC, just such a nice swap. Like swapping Aljo for Sean O'Malley.
A guy they hate versus a guy they love. A guy the fans hate versus a guy the fans love.
Yep.
I don't like the association with Tekashi 6ix9ine, but that's another story for another day. Yeah.
Yep. That is a sketchy one.
It is. Anything else, Dino?
No, man. I mean, I'm excited for the fight. What else is there to say?
We get our first Suga Shane title fight.
Yeah. We're finally here. I mean, after all that, you always knew that he was going to be a guy who was going to be well marketed because he did it from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting, and say what you will about his route that he took to get here. It's interesting that we're finally here.
And last thing I'd like to add in, a lot of people really like it's like, with music, you find a band that's like underground, or like a rapper that's underground. You're like, oh, dude, I've been a fan of Drake since Degrassi or whatever, like since like this mixtape and shit like that. There's a lot of that with Sean O'Malley because
100%.
He was early on in the Contender Series. A lot of people started watching around that time, so they've seen Sean O'Malley pre-UFC. And they're getting a title fight here. So
and if you think about it time-wise, man, it's been a long time, too. 22 to he's 28 now.
I just think they babied him so hard.
No, they did.
And then you know what the UFC realized is I think at some point they were like, Hunter Campbell and Dana and all these guys, they were just chilling and they're like, you realize Sean O'Malley's 29, right? Or like 28 or whatever he is. It's like, dude, we got to start going because he's fighting fucking Chris Moutinho and Thomas Almeida. Tomatoes Alfredo. He's fighting these guys and just making a mockery of these people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we got to push this kid now, or else if we don't, he's going to be 33, and then what's the point?
And I would have hated to see that.
Yeah.
So yes, he's been baby, but he's 29 years old, man. I mean, let's see it.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see the future of the Suga Show.
Absolutely.
We might be entering the Suga Show era, so it is important to kind of stamp this moment and remember what it was like before that.
If Aljo loses, does he get an immediate rematch?
No. The UFC will not give Aljamain Sterling a rematch.
They'll give it to Merab?
Maybe him or Cheeto. I don't think Sandhagen gets it after that dud of a performance.
Does Aljo then move up?
Aljo's leaving.
Still?
Yeah, Aljo's leaving.
Even if he loses?
Yeah,
Even if he loses?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything left for him to do at 35.
Yeah, you're right.
And he doesn't want to cut the weight. It's difficult for him. He looks absolutely shredded right now. But anyways, I think we're at the start, potentially, of the Suga Show era. Dino, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, guys. He's DS. I'm Dino Bam Bam. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, we would really appreciate it if you click the subscribe button, little thumbs up, ring the little bell. What's the sound the bell makes? Something like that. That'll notify you when our videos drop. You can also follow us on Instagram at the107MMA. I'm also going to link Sean O'Malley's YouTube channel. Very interesting content he does there.
Yeah, and that's another thing, too. I mean,
YouTube, video games, all that shit. Suga Shane. It might be his time.
Let's see it.
DS. DBB. Peace.